call me a Sega Showcase, so I'm pulling you my pillowcase. Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the Game Skates. Today, and only today, that's right, I got to go to a Sega Game Summer Showcase. So thank you to Sega, and of course, as always, thank you to all of you for allowing me to do something cool like this. But yes, I got to go to a Sega Summer Showcase. This is effectively a way for Sega to show and have us play a bunch of their upcoming lineup. In fact, these are games that I think are going to be featured at Gamescom, and probably you have seen, a trailer or something at the Gamescom press conference. But I figured today I would give you my experience. Now, they had quite a few games there, right? But I highlighted and played the ones that I cared about. So for example, today we're going to be talking about Sonic Pico Park. We're going to talk about Persona 4 Revival. We're going to be talking about Crazy Taxi and Stranger Than Heaven. So without further ado, subscribe to your boy, support the content. Let's get right into this. All right, now some of these have been provided footage, but some of them are actually my footage. Now for Pico Park, this is a provided B-roll. So I got to play a bit more Sonic Pico Park. I got to play with Choctopus. I think he's gonna have his own footage of us playing together if you want to go check it out there as well. But yeah, see, Pico Park, it's so funny, right? Like, you guys know me, I'm a Sonic glazer, that's my guy, that's my franchise and everything. And I feel like of all the Sonic games that have come out over the last few years, this is probably the one I've like covered the least. Like, I feel like I besides like the reveal trailer, I don't ever think I've even done like a breakdown or anything about this game, because it just, to me, this is just like, this is Pico Park. If you guys don't know Pico Park, it's like it's in the friend, maybe I won't say, I won't say in this video, but it's in the friend silliness genre, right? That you've all come to expect, where you basically are working with friends in order to progress through these levels. Now, the fun thing about this version of the game is that, the characters have distinctions, like Knuckles has the glide, Sonic has a spin dash. I think Tails also can fly around, so Amy doesn't have anything as far as I know, but it's fun. I think that's like the first and foremost thing about the game, is that you basically go through these, like, I'm just gonna like scrub through some of the footage here. You basically go through some of these challenges with the people you're playing with, and it's cute and it's fun. I feel like, I've said this before ever since this sort of like was revealed. I'm like, this is going to be a great game that I stream on launch day, play with some different groups of people, and then probably never look back at it. But I do think, like I've said it before, I think this game is going to be successful. I mean, the original Pico Park on Steam is like, is perfect streamer fodder. You know what I mean? Where like streamers will play this, get their rage clips and everything, because it is infuriating to play with friends. But it's also hilarious. Like, so I'm hopefully excited to play this with people, and we're going to get a crazy experience. It's going to be fun. But yeah, I mean, I don't have too much to say about this, shockingly, as Mr. Sonic. Like, it's going to be cute. It's going to be fun. I do like that sometimes there's parts of the level where you are running with the gang. Like I said, I find the sprites are really cute. I hope we actually, I'm looking at this here, I hope we get more Sonic indie projects like this. You know what I mean? I think that's my biggest takeaway from this, is like, I hope we do get more projects for Sonic like this. Yeah, that's my biggest takeaway and hope. But next up, we have to talk about a game that people are extremely excited for, and so am I, and that is Persona 4 Revival. Now, if you've watched my channel before, you know that I like Persona a lot. Like, in fact, my first Persona game was Persona 4 Golden on the Vita. Like, I've been there since the sort of beginnings of the repopularization of Persona, right? So my history with this, I played Persona 4 Golden, right? Obviously, I played 5, I played 5R, I played 3 Reload, I played Royal, I played Strikers, I played some of Tactics, but I've consumed modern day Persona a lot. I played the dancing games. Like, I've been part of, the wheel that is Persona, right? And Persona 4 Revival is obviously the next big remake that they've been doing. Obviously, we've seen they remade Persona 3, and now they're doing that with Persona 4. But Persona 4 for me is a game that, like, I am so much more invested in, because I love it. I loved playing it on the Vita, and so as you can see, visually, as always, beautiful. Right, beautiful, like already from the menus and the stylings and everything. We got to play 2 sections, or at least I got to play 2 sections. There was a story section you could do, dungeon, and then they gave us this free roam exploration mode to try out, which that one doesn't have footage, but I'll yap about it with you. But yes, inherently I got to first play the dungeon mode, and man, I gotta say, dude, they cooked, bro. They cooked. I will say, Teddy, all right, Teddy's voice Not my favorite. There's the new voice actor for Teddy is weird. You know, they all have different voice actors. I feel like they all did a pretty good job, but I'm so used to Teddy being like high pitched, like, hey there guys, it's me, Teddy. We gotta get through the dungeon. I know some people find it annoying, but I'm like, now he just kind of sounds like a dude where he's just like, let's get through this dungeon. We have to do this together. And I'm like,
I have no clue what's going on, but I do know you can fight back with that cool power. Still, those guys are pretty big, huh?
okay, it sort of loses that charm, but of course, you know, getting into it as always with Persona, we have the battle system. Now, there is many a time I was playing this demo, right, where I literally just was not moving, as you can see here, just to jam to the music. Obviously, Persona 4's soundtrack has always been phenomenal, you know, but like they had remixes of I face I hold down, I reach out to the truth, and of course you have the new battle theme where it's prime time golden hour shot. Here, let me play it for you a little bit because it's just so good.
The party's just getting started.
Okay then, now this. Maybe
Finale.
So now
Woo, so that's its weakness. Now that it's down, do it again.
Now then, let's see. Persona! And there were like many times where I was just sitting there listening to the songs in there. But yeah, effectively, if you've never played Persona, the battle system kind of works like, think of it as like Pokemon, but like you have to figure out your type advantages, you know, like, so you'll get into these fights, you can have different, you know, persona types, and, you know, ultimately you're trying to find which weapon, you know, which type is better, you're stronger than the enemies, but it's super modernized, you know, with like your full party and everything, where you can do stuff like, all right, boom, I hit an enemy with their weak point, so I'll get an extra move, or boom, like I could do a baton pass where, you know, I give my teammate, you know, a race in there. So that was pretty good. I obviously could thought I was listening to music over here, right? And obviously, you know, they've revamped all the animations. This is one of my favorite windscreens, by the way, when you just beat, you know, this, and like it does the little camera fade where it spins it over. It's so stylish. And even this, like, where it fades from the TV to back into the dungeon, it's so good. Now, in the original Persona 4 revival, I think this is still the case, the dungeon floors were randomly generated, but at least, you know, here the floors at least look nicer. They were so much more, you know, older, right, when you played the PS Vita version, or maybe if you played the original version. But yeah, I mean, the UI just remains beautiful, as you'd expect from Persona. This, like, the moves where you get the specials and you do the extra damage is so incredibly good. Like, again, the wind sky, I cannot stress enough how cool, like, the wind screens are when you get, like, your team finish. It's so good. They'll even have, like, text over here where they'll say, like, the hero, star of the show, right? Or if you finish one with Yosuke, he'll get his own one. And yeah, I loved my time with this. Like, this is literally me standing here, like, jamming to the music. And if you finish, yeah, look at this, right? If you finish this battle, right, and you get like the ultimate move with Yosuke over here, you'll see right away, look at that, bro, standout wingman. You know, you'll get like this just cool text with the artwork in the back. It's awesome. I love Persona 4, you know, so much. It's like a game I love. And obviously, you know, we got some of the story bits. You know, we got to do, I think this is Chie's boss fight, right? You know, when you're going to find her, you know, you're fighting her inner self, because the theme of Persona 4, for people that don't know, is, you know, it plays a bit like it's effectively Scooby-Doo, but like with like more stakes. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, it's a murder mystery. You're trying to find out who is, you know, killing people around the town. But at the same time, it's about the characters discovering themselves and their true selves, right? And you get to fall in love with the cast, and they're super charming. But yeah, it's about accepting, you know, yourself for your flaws and, you know, your positives that are all a part of you. And you know, as always with Persona, you got to fight your inner selves. You get some demons, you get some cool boss music. Again, the voice acting I thought was fantastic out of Teddy. I still can't believe how crazy some of these bosses are in terms of their design. But yeah, obviously, like I said, you know, UI fantastic, exactly what you'd come to expect from Persona, right? You got fantastic music, you got fantastic gameplay, and there's also if I can show it here, one second. This is what I wanted to talk about. So the game has a new gimmick, right, and thing called prime time, right? So you'll see in certain fights, what's going to happen to you is you're going to build a meter, right? There's going to be a meter to the right side that they've added to the game. You can see it to the right here. It's called prime time. So basically how this works, this is effectively a kind of like reward / god mode. You basically have 3 hits you can do to initiate. You know, you'll get 3 free hits over. Actually, it tells you the exact thing here. So during prime time, members can perform multiple consecutive actions without ending the turn, allowing you to maintain the advantage. So yeah, if you wanted to like stay as one character and affect the, you know, weakness on 3 different enemies, you can do that, right? Or if you want to do like, you know, constantly baton passes, right? Where yeah, you get more strategies over here, you get to do that. But what's so cool about this is I love that, like, you know, look how cool like the area all becomes, where it has all like the yellow from Persona 4, which I find is just super cool. But yeah, effectively it's sort of like a, you know, a god mode moment for you, right? Where it's like, all right, for 3 turns, you're the GOAT. You know what I mean? And obviously you build this meter, and it's going to take a while to build the meter, so you're not just going to be getting prime time constantly. It's something you're going to get for, you know, doing a bunch of fights and locking in. So I love this, you know, and there's like a grand finale once you finish the 3 turns. You'll get this like cool slice animation where, you know, they'll do a team attack together. Obviously, different characters have different animations. But yeah, that's how the prime time gimmick works. And as always, if you've never played Persona 4, the fun of it is, don't think of this as a roguelike, but think of this as like a sort of roguelike element. You know, in like a roguelike, you'll get like a perk or a reward. And that happens in Persona 4. When you finish certain fights, you'll be, you know, rewarded. So for example, you can claim a persona, or you can claim extra XP for that fight, or you can claim stuff like, you know, you're gonna get more money for the rest of this dungeon floor. Like, there's really cool stuff that like make your dungeon runs like actually engaging and really fun. And that was like one thing that I've always loved about, you know, original Persona 4. So I also, like I told you guys, I got to play the exploration mode of the game. I think there's some footage of it. Here's what I wanted to show you guys. So one thing, as always with Persona, is you can go to the Velvet Room. This is basically the place where, you know, you can make your own personas, right, or fuse some of them, or, you know, you can hang out with the beautiful queen Marie, who is really cool. Love her, you know, hope she's living her best life. And one thing about the game, as always with Persona, is you have social links. Social links are basically ways for you to hang out with characters in the real world, and when you hang out with them, you know, oftentimes you are rewarded with stuff that will affect your dungeon run. So for example, you know, some character social links will make it so that you get extra XP in dungeons. Sometimes you'll be able to do an extra move. Sometimes, you know, status effects will be discoverable like easier. But, you know, that's the joy and beauty of Persona, is you're doing this daily system in the real world, right? Where, you know, you're hanging out with your friends, you're living your life, and those things and relationships affect how you do the digital world. So the voice acting is really great. Like I was talking about, you know, the portraits are cool. One thing I really liked too, and this is a small detail, like I liked some of like, you know, the character, like the camera dynamic changes that they finally had throughout some of these confidants. And yeah, obviously in Persona, you're sort of a self-insert a little bit, you know, where you're answering certain dialogue cues. But yeah, stuff like this I really appreciate, right? Like when you're doing the character hangouts and you get like some nicer, you know, camera angles, I guess you would call. But as always, you know, with Persona 4 and every Persona, the UI is fantastic. I thought the music remixes were amazing, and I'm so excited for this game, dude. All right, but would you believe me if after all that Persona yapping, I told you that that wasn't even my star of the show? That's right, I got to play Crazy Taxi World Tour. This is the first time that it was actually fully playable. You know, for people outside, I think in Summer Games Fest, it was a showcase that, you know, they got to see. But yeah, I got to play Crazy Taxi World Tour. Now, obviously, I know some people, you know, have been yapping when it comes to this game about the AI. So I want to at least mention that so it doesn't come across as if like I'm hiding anything or whatever. From what I understand, it was, used for, placeholder assets or conceptual stuff that's never been in the game. So again, I just thought I would at least say it just in case, people are gonna be like, oh, you're not mentioning this. All right, but I'm here to talk to you about this game. And this, like I said, was by far 1,000,000% my game of the show. I loved playing this game. And yeah, let me say this to you. If you've never played Crazy Taxi is a arcade driving game, right? The idea is that you find quirky, weird characters, and you're doing them favors and you're helping them in the environment and all that. Now, what's so cool about this game is you sort of have the best of both worlds of Crazy Taxi. Is you can play Crazy Taxi as Crazy Taxi, right? Where you're going to different characters and you're telling them back. But there's also an open world. I believe the world they showcased last year was Germany. And yeah, you can effectively play this game with story missions, right? Where you meet like main quirky characters. And obviously, like you'd come to expect from a lot of modern video games, you can get scores, right? Like you're going to get 3 or 4 stars or 5 stars depending on your performance. And the controls are so simple. It's literally, you have this boost gauge, right? You have the drift, right? And you can be crazy. You know what I mean? There's plenty of moments and times for you to be crazy. There's even some tech that they were trying to explain to me where like if you press like the drift and then you press like B and then A like right after another, you can like boost forward without like awkwardly ending your drift. But yeah, effectively, like I said, you have your story missions you can do in the game. You have voice acting, which is very nice. And of course, you have your licensed music, which is awesome. But yeah, I'm going to show you guys this around here. So for example, anytime you want, right, in the open world. So you don't always have to do story missions. If you want to play like traditional Crazy Taxi, well, first of all, they told me that there is going to be a classic mode. So if you just want to, from the menu, hey, I want to play, casual Crazy Taxi from back then the way I want it, you can, right? But what's nice about the game is, again, you have the open world with missions and you can start a run at any time. So like right here, right? You can grab this random guy and then your Crazy Taxi run begins. Where you're trying to get like the most money possible. Now, the gimmick with Crazy Taxi, if you've never played it, is that, the more crazy tricks you do, right, the more people that you save, there's going to be a timer that's going out as you're trying to, get your score up. But you're trying to get as many people delivered to where they want to go as possible. Now, I'm sure, I'm not good at this right now because it's been a minute since I've played, actual Crazy Taxi. And I'm sure once people learn text, it's going to get crazier. But yeah, you could do boost forward, you're trying to get people to where they want to be at really quickly. But like I was saying, this to me was incredibly fun. And what I liked about the game is, you have your traditional Crazy Taxi, like I said, but you have distinct missions. So for example, you'll have like a psycho mission where you meet this bunny character, right? You meet the stupid bunny character over here, right? And you'll basically have to do like little missions. Like, for example, you have to grab a bunch of the little bunny guys, within an allocated amount of time. And you're trying to get them to the base. And again, every mission in the game has stuff like this, right? Where you'll have like 3 bonus sets, right? Where obviously the more you do for the bonus sets, the more your score will go up and everything. Now, I actually don't know what all this stuff is going to lead to, like what kind of upgrades you'll be able to get, or maybe different vehicles. But we do know that there's going to be 5 different open worlds, which is awesome. We know that obviously San Francisco's in the game because of the initial trailer. And we know, that right now we're in Germany. But if what I played is any indication of how fun the game is gonna be, where you're collecting eggs and you're doing your races against other characters, this race kicked my ass for a while. I was trying to figure out how to beat this guy, but you really do have to like go on like a bunch of alt paths to try to pass him. But like I said, I was shocked at how unbelievably fun it was. You have this fun mini game over here where you have pizzas and you got to either stop to restack them over here or go feed them to people. And again, I feel like they did such a good job of capturing the weirdness of Crazy Taxi, right? Whether it's the characters, whether it's the crazy music, whether it's the scenarios. Like, I don't know, my biggest worry was that they were gonna tone it down, but it feels like they did a good job. The only thing that's like lost a little bit in translation, I feel, with Crazy Taxi is that like in the original, the camera was way more up close to you and it felt like everything was a little bit more frantic, but I get it. You know, they're trying to make an open world with it. Like it's very different. You know what I mean? It's a very different type of game nowadays that they're cooking. So had a lot of fun. There's one challenge I want to show you guys that made me laugh. I did want to highlight that, like, I really like Axel being like a dumb surfer, dude.
Now make haste, lest my pursuers catch up with us. Pursuers?
Pursuers? Like, I don't know. I felt like they did a good job of giving Axe like a silly voice. Obviously, you know, this guy, there's this one mission that I thought was incredibly fun where basically you have to get this guy to the airport. You know, to make up to his girlfriend, because I think he cheated on her or something. I don't know, but you know, you have to catch up to this flight, which is really funny. And again, the music was great. I'm sure there's gonna be more licensed songs in it, but I was just so happy. This is also my favorite mission in the game, right? You basically have to learn how to do the crazy stop, right? Which is like you stop really quickly, but you have to go as fast as possible so that you crazy stop, and then you launch this guy unbelievably fun. This genuinely had me laughing. Like, I was at the event and I was dying of laughter just tossing this man all the way, you know, wherever the hell he lands over here. So I assume the faster you went and farther you stopped, the farther he would have gone. So I'm excited. I feel like the game's gonna do a good job of having these silly characters that are recurring. Maybe they'll go to the different parts of the game, meeting new characters depending on the areas you go to. And yeah, like I said, I cannot be more happy than when I was playing this game. Like, I genuinely kept wanting to play. It was my highlight of the show by like a mile too. Like, I loved it so much. Overall, for this game, I cannot wait for it. It's like one of my most anticipated games, and I just can't wait to do the regular Crazy Taxi runs. I can't wait to do all the story stuff, and I just feel like they cooked, and I can't wait to go to all the places that the game has to offer. I feel like we're in for a banger. It feels like Sega's back, you know, through and through. All right, now the last game I got to play and I want to talk about a little bit was Stranger Than Heaven. This is the new game by the RGG studio, right? These are the guys that make, obviously, most notably, Super Monkey Ball, actually, and Yakuza. But yeah, obviously, most notably, the Yakuza games. But yeah, I got to play a little bit of Stranger Than Heaven. Now, the thing about this demo was it was more of a combat showcase. You got to do a boss fight, a, you know, medium fight, and then an easy fight in the game. So this wasn't like story stuff. This wasn't like, you know, open world, you know, mini games and activities. This was purely like a combat showcase. But you can see like over here that like the world is super pretty. You know, obviously you can tell the rain's a little iffy. It's definitely still a work in progress, but you know, this is one of the areas we got to see in the game where you start up a boss fight with this guy. But yeah, I think what I'm going to be end up talking about a lot here is the combat, because that was the biggest thing about this. So the gimmick with the combat of Stranger Than Heaven is that your shoulder buttons are your left arms and your right. So for example, L1, L2 are like your light punch and heavy punch, and R1, R2 are your right punch and heavy punch, right? And the idea is that, you know, you can also block with like your right arm or block with your left arm. You know, you can jump enemies like this, right? Where you press L, you know, both triggers to grab someone and get onto the ground. Like, they really wanted you to feel like you were controlling the character. Now, I gotta admit, I had some trouble with this. I wasn't necessarily a fan of the heavier sort of combat, but maybe I was telling people there and everything, I think that's like a skill issue or a me thing. I feel like the people that like this kind of game and this kind of, you know, more like street action gameplay will like this a lot more than me. But I feel like for me, when it comes to action games, I like a little bit more like, you know, the psycho fast-paced ones, you know, whether it's like your Spider-Mans or your Devil May Cries, you know, or something more action-y in there. But for the most part, I thought this was pretty cool. I like the idea. Maybe it's something that I feel like if I learned, I would enjoy a lot more. And I do want to play this game, right? You know, if we've seen like from the cast and the music and, you know, the set pieces, that it looks like it's going to be cool. And like, again, from the footage, this is actually the provided footage, not mine over here. It's really sick, man. I mean, this is like, it's a very visceral combat system overall. I think what they really wanted with the combat is like to force you to think a little bit, right? Because it feels like, you know, they don't want you to just like mash, right? They want you to think like, all right, I'm using this heavy weapon, I should swing it with my right arm, you know, or I could block with the weapon, or I could block on my left side. There's even like a gimmick where like if you perfectly block from the side the enemy is coming from, I think you get like your perfect parry. Yeah, like this, right, where you get like the slow-mo into the action shot. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, this is probably, like I said, the game I have the least to say, in a sense of like, I thought this was really cool. I wish we got to like play, you know, the actual open world and everything. It looks pretty. We know it's gonna be cool because of the story stuff. But yeah, that was my like little consensus about the gameplay. But that's really it. But yeah, they also at the event they also had playable Alien Isolation 2 and Total Warhammer 40K. But I do think that if you are watching my video, those are probably the lessest of the things you care about, and nor did I, so I didn't even get to play them. But overall, right, I gotta say, you know, I was super, like, my highlights here were definitely, you know, Persona 4 Revival and Crazy Taxi. Like, for me, those are the two where I came out of it like very excited. You know, with Pico Park, I was like, yeah, that was Pico Park. That was fun. I was like, that was cool. But yeah, Persona 4 Revival and Crazy Taxi, I was like, I'm really excited for these. That I'm very excited to see, you know, more of them and whatever footage we're gonna get at Gamescom. So yeah, but that's really it, guys. Let me know, obviously, in the comment section below, which of these games did you enjoy the most from the footage. You know, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them to me. Make sure to subscribe for more, and if you want me to cover these games more in the future, I'd be glad to. You know, I would like to do more, you know, more franchises under my belt, because the more I can yap, the better. So guys, thank y'all for watching. You're all the best. And of course, I will see y'all next time. Peace out.